the seam heads that bleed orange and black. This is Sports Phone KNBR. Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply on the Sports Leader. Check the live stream on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, welcome in from the bunker at Oracle Park. It is Sports Phone KNBR following the Giants' 10-2 loss to the Dodgers.
808 KNBR is the number. It's John Dickinson, joined by Sandra G. Again, appreciate Sandra for being here. Of course, of Talking Baseball with Marty Lurie. You hear her with Marty on the program on the weekends here on the Sports Leader. Sandra, how you doing tonight?
Well, I wish I was doing a little bit better, JD. The Giants did not look as competitive as they did in the fight against the Dodgers this evening, but they were back in the City Connects, but the magic was not enough to bring any runs across the board for them.
Yeah, did all of the Fanatics, Nike, new look City Connects that kind of look the same, but they're a little bit see-through and not great. Did all the magic gone from the City Connects? Did Nike take all the magic?
Let's blame it on Fanatics. Let's do that.
Fanatics with all of that. But Giants lose 10-2. 808 KNBR is the number to join the conversation. 415-808-5627. You can give us a call or shoot us a text here as we come to you from the bunker inside Oracle Park. Giants lose at 10-2, so they dip now to 19-25 on the season. That equals the low water mark at 6 under 500 for the Giants. So they were 6 under after the first game of the Cincinnati series. Then they won a couple of games, but now losing the first 2 to the Dodgers in this series. So they are 19-25, and they'll try to avoid the sweep with Logan Webb on the mound tomorrow night. Another evening game in the series finale for Webb going up against the Dodgers, and 0-5 now against the Dodgers. Competitive last night, and I couldn't help but think, and we'll get into a lot of the details from this one, but I go back to last night, and you joined the program last night, and last night, even in a loss, a positive vibe, good atmosphere in the crowd. Matos goes deep. It's a competitive game. Giants probably feel like they let that one slip in the late innings with some defensive miscues and the like. But you look at tonight and the 10-2 game in the Dodgers' favor. And sort of my overarching theme in linking the two together is just because you almost won last night doesn't mean you're going to win tonight, or more likely to win tonight than you would have been. And now you need Logan Webb to pitch like an ace to try and avoid the sweep. And, it's tough. Keaton Wynn goes down. You've got all the injury notes that we can get to here as we start the program. But, another tough one against the rival Dodgers, who now in 5 matchups head-to-head have just have shown why they're the class of the division.
Yeah, it's a tough one for the Giants to lose, and like you're saying, not be as competitive as they were last night. The second evening in a row for the Giants that their starting pitcher has exited the game in 5 innings. So that's not typically what you want to see from your starting pitcher. You're hoping to get more from that. Keaton Wynn leaves the game tonight with what's looking like some soreness in his forearm. So Bob Melvin had some post-game comments, and Keaton Wynn's going in for an MRI tomorrow morning. So we will see what that holds for the Giants moving forward. Keaton Wynn has stepped up into that place in the rotation with the Giants are down Snell, who is working his way back. So hopefully he will be back sooner than later. But tomorrow the Giants are going to lean on their ace Logan Webb, and that's what the Giants have been doing for quite some time now, leaning on Logan and hoping to salvage at least one win in the series and put up a fight tomorrow against the Dodgers, which they haven't, unfortunately, all season long.
Yeah, this one lost really in the fourth inning for the Giants. The top of the fourth inning, Dodgers didn't have a hit. First time through against Keaton Wynn. He did walk one, but it all started with Ohtani in the fourth as he hit the monster home run. Really, it was a Barry Bonds-like home run.
The sound of that home run was definitely reminiscent of a Barry home run.
The sound, where it went.
I mean, it was Bonds territory, 446 feet. The first LA hit. Then come the walks, and what's been problematic for the Giants, not always the walks, but the free 90 feet. And walks are, in some ways, a free 90 feet. They both come back to score. Hernandez doubles in a run. Muncy with a sacrifice fly. So the Dodgers able to cash both walks in for a 3-0 lead. And then Lux with the triple to score Teoscar Hernandez. So 4-0 at that point, 3 hits, the 2 walks that I mentioned, they both end up scoring. And at that point, you look up and it's 4-0, and they add on in the fifth. Keaton Wynn with back-to-back singles he allows there, then ends up out of the game. Giants got on the board in the bottom of the 6th to make it 5-1, but then the Dodgers just continue to add on the run in the 7th, and then 4 more in the 9th, and that's really where it got ugly. That's really where it got, a lot of Dodger fans in the park, and there was nothing really for the Giants fans to fight back with tonight like there was last night.
Yeah, the ninth inning was not a good showing, and that's what leaves the Giants exiting the ballpark tonight really not feeling too good. And coming from last night being a little bit more competitive, and tonight with kind of the hit parade that was just not coming to an end in the 9th inning was not a good showing for him.
So 808 KNBR, the number, 415-808-5627 if you want to give us a call or shoot us a text here. John Dickinson along with Sandra G here in the bunker at Oracle Park as the Giants now 19-25. If we get any more news on Keaton Wynn, we'll make sure we pass that along. And we'll run down a lot of the injuries. Again, more injury updates. Not good news for the Giants as far as you look at Jung-Hoo Lee today. Jorge Soler got hit with his own batted ball during batting practice, and so we'll keep everybody updated on all of that here as we roll on into the evening. Let's get to the phones. We'll get it started with Glenn in Visalia here on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Glenn?
Hey, Sandra. Welcome to the KNBR, and it's nice to hear a beautiful young lady on the air.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here, getting a taste of the post game.
JD 101-84, bottom late in the fourth quarter, Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm keeping tabs on that. I'm keeping tabs on that.
But I called recently, JD. I think you and Sandra maybe can answer this. I hope the Giants is not the only team who have not had a 3-game winning streak, and I don't think we're capable.
Well, look, they haven't been capable to this point, and we'll see what happens. You got Logan Webb going tomorrow, still against the Dodgers, and you got the Rockies who've been playing a little bit better over the weekend. So there still is an opportunity, and I'll bet they do have one at some point this season. So, but to this point, how do you dig yourself out of a hole? Well, you got to get on a little bit of a streak if you're not going to just win every series. We talked about that a little bit last night for a month. And so, yeah, I think they're capable, but the pitching has got to clear. This team was supposed to pitch, and I think they have more often than not, aside from that Blake Snell spot, which has been problematic, and we've talked about. But the young players have provided a little bit of a spark. But again, if you're going to play as many young players over and over that the Giants are playing over the long haul, they're going to have to really be good if you're going to string together wins. Like eventually, if they're not ready, they will be exposed. And it's too early to tell either way. And so far, I think the infusion is there. But you got to it's the good with the bad. So you all add it up at the end of the month, and you all add it up moving forward, and you kind of figure out where to go from there. But yeah, and you're going up against the Dodgers, who are as talented as any team in the majors.
Yeah, the Dodgers are the big bad Dodgers right now. They're fully stocked with players, especially in the top of the lineup, and that's where you really can't make mistakes. Some little positives that we will point out here is that the last 6 runs that the Giants have scored have been from Matos and from Ramos. So that's a plus side from the youth that has been coming up. But if you think about it, too, the Giants, it's not truly for a lack of hitting. They are getting hits, but it's just the timely hit. So at one point, the Giants had maybe 1 or 2 less hits than the Dodgers, I think, going into the 7th before that crazy 9th inning where it was a hit parade for the Dodgers. But if you really think about it, it's getting that timely hit. The Giants, how many players did they leave on base today? But they left quite a few men on base. I think it was maybe 9 men left on base for the Giants. So it's about getting those timely hits and not making mistakes, I think, is going to be another big thing for them to be able to turn this around and start stringing together some wins for the club. So we got to keep that in mind also. They are getting hits, but it's just getting that timely.
Yeah, and runners in scoring position, the extra bases given up, whether it's via the walk, whether it's again tonight with Outman walked in the third, and then Sable, teams are looking to run wild on him still. Another error throwing the ball into center field. That was erased by the great play that Chapman made on that double play where he makes the tag and then able to turn 2 there to get out of that inning. But when you aren't hitting early with runners in scoring position, the Giants really didn't have many opportunities in those first couple of innings. Leadoff double, though, for Yaz tonight. You don't cash
nice.
that in. And then you get behind. And then when you get behind, I think it gets harder. There's more pressure to cash that in to get back in the game. So all in all, not a good night, and a night that unfortunately, and I think that the toughest part of tonight really is the fact that it got embarrassing in the 9th inning. It's one thing to be getting beat and it's 6-1, but then the pile-on runs in the 9th inning, it kind of erases some of, all right, this team's got some action. They're been infused with the young players. They play a competitive game, but that's the thing. You don't get the win. You come back the next night, and things start to look more like they have, at least in this series with the Giants and the Dodgers over the 5 games that they've played this season. And now all of a sudden you look at it in the grand scheme of things, and it's 2 more losses. It's the season low water mark at 15 or at 19 and 25, and now you're counting on the ace to try and get you back on track, which isn't going to be a picnic tomorrow.
Yeah, it got ugly there in the 9th inning, that's for sure. And even in the stands, you could see the Giants fans started filing out in around the 7th inning. So that's not what you like to see. The Giant-Dodgers series and this rivalry matchup, you want to see the Giants putting up a little bit of a fight. And hey, the first 4 out of the 5 innings, the Giants had their leadoff men reach base, but they just couldn't get them around the bag. So unfortunately, that's the way it went.
All right, Eric in San Jose is next here on The Sports Leader. Hey, Eric.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, how are you tonight? Tough night for the Giants.
Tough night. What I want to talk about, Sandra just touched on, was wasting that leadoff hitter, man, and then after that, not getting any productive outs, and it's just frustrating when you're trying to squeeze out runs. It seems like we're anemic when it comes to scoring runs, so it's just frustrating to get that leadoff runner on and not even be able to move him over and just keep the line moving. So I don't know what our issues are, but it's tough. I mean, it's like we're half the Sacramento River Cats versus one of the best teams in baseball, and there's only so much you can do. I just want to give a quick shout out to the whole video board crew that's at the Giants. All the replay guys, camera guys, the people that get the stats on the board. They do an awesome job, and I'll take it offline. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, well, definitely down to give a nod there. Thanks, Eric. But yeah, you look at the struggles, and yeah, there have been too many. When they do get on base, you're not getting the big hit, as you mentioned. I mean, you look first inning, Yaz, leadoff double, and then nothing. Ground out back to the pitcher. Couple more ground outs, inning over at that point. Then they go down in order in the second. 3rd inning, you get the leadoff single from Matos, and then it's boom, boom, boom. Leadoff walk in the 4th. And then immediately you get the double pile on, and it just, the game can get away from you fast. And I think, that's where the Giants have found themselves, unfortunately, too often in the early going of the season. And it really can look a lot worse when you're going up against a team that's as talented as this Dodgers team is. And I think, last night's the indicator of just what it takes to beat them. Like, you can play, for the most part, a pretty good game, except for a couple of mistakes here or there, and that's still enough to get you beat. And then there's the nights where you come out and, you waste some opportunities maybe a little bit early. They get on you, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, you've got to play mistake-free baseball when you're playing against the Dodgers. You just simply cannot give them any extra outs. I think Freeman reaching on what I can basically chalk up to as a mental error with Matos in center field. Like, if you're the captain of the outfield, you're going to have to call off Ramos in that situation. I can chalk it up as a mental error, and that is kind of deflating. You know, physical errors are one thing, like that's going to happen. You're going to misplace certain balls or make just physical mistakes, but it's the mental errors that are going to kill you. And then that's also a little bit deflating for the club also. You kind of lose any momentum that you have as a club, and you're thinking to yourself, well, hey, Freeman goes around and scores there. Or no, he didn't score there, but in the first inning. But you just can't give the Dodgers any extra outs.
Yeah, the three base error right there off the top, and that's immediately. I mean, there's just been too many of those free bases, whether it's been errors, whether it's been stolen bases, whether it's been wild pitches that have allowed the extra 90 feet, and then the walks factor into that as well. When you add all of those up, middle of the game, Dodgers have the lead, and basically it was a 9-2 advantage in just free bases in favor of the Dodgers. It's an indicator that you're not really playing a clean game. So 808 KNBR, let's continue on the phone lines here tonight, as it is Sports Phone KNBR post Giants game edition. Loverboy in Tracy is next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Loverboy.
Hey guys, good work tonight. I know doing post game after a big blowout probably wasn't what you're looking forward to. But
some nights you get nights like last night. Some nights you get nights like tonight.
Yeah, well, you get nights like this too, because the Giants are driving me to the In-N-Out Burger line just to try and get a milkshake to drown my sorrows.
Sounds like a plan. That sounds like what I might be doing at about 12:15.
Yeah, well, I'll grab one for you.
I appreciate that.
Big Giants fan, grateful for our 3 World Series and all that. Now we're in these years, so I'm trying not to complain too much. But I don't know about you guys, but this has really reminded me of like the 07, 08, 09. I mean, the Giants are just boring. And a lot of these losses, it makes me think of the Warriors when the Warriors were terrible. They at least were an exciting team to watch. They'd lose by a few points and break your heart. These are just boring games, and I'm questioning if I'm still that big of a baseball fan. I feel like I'm a bad fan because I just can't pay attention to this stuff. It's torture.
Yeah, there have been a lot of nights like that, and it has kind of come and gone. Last night was an exciting game, but it's a heartbreaker. It's one that drives you crazy for a different reason. And then tonight is the game that when you couple the two together, it's like, wow, this is really where this team is at right now. I think there are some similarities in kind of waiting for young players to come up, wondering if those young players are going to come up. The one thing, though, that those 08, 09 teams had, and the 09 team was good. The 09 team, I think, ended up winning 86 games. But 07, 08 for sure was rough, the last Bonds year. Crossover with the first Lincecum year, but you at least had that, right? You had Lincecum. Hey, who's Lincecum? Who's, Bonds obviously going to, break the home run record in 07. And then 08 was really tough. That was when they really went young and tried to figure out who the keepers were. And Brian Wilson showed himself that year. Romo showed himself as a reliever that year. Pablo Sandoval came up toward the end of that year. So there were some keepers moving forward to when they did have a better year and improved in 09, and then obviously 10, 12, and 14 and everything that happened after that. So sometimes you got to take your lumps, and there are seasons that turn into those years where you take your lumps, you find as many keepers as you can, and then you just look to revamp the whole thing. And I think, that is the one more positive outlook that we just don't know, Loverboy, is that, maybe by the end of this thing, it's like, and the hope, I think, at this point has to be, all right, Ramos is a guy you can pencil in for next year, and or Matos is a guy you can pencil in for next year. You're hoping you have a few of those to where when you do rework it, and we don't know who's going to be doing the reworking at this point either. I think that's obviously in flux, but you don't want to be doing that on May 14th and 15th. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Good point. We'll see how it plays out. The season's still young, and as you know, we got a lot of injuries, so we're going to have some exciting months ahead of us. But for now, I'm going to have a milkshake, wake up tomorrow, and regret it.
Enjoy it, Loverboy. I'm not too far behind you on that. Appreciate the call. 808 KNBR is the number. The Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open as well, as it is KNBR 104.5 and 680. San Francisco. John Dickinson, joined by Sandra G. here from the bunker at Oracle Park. 808 KNBR. We'll get back to the phones here in just a second. But, again, you don't want to be in – I think there's a lot of Giants fans that are kind of in give-up mode with some of these more demoralizing losses. There is still a lot of season to be played, but on the one hand, you're looking at the veteran players who haven't performed. Can the young players come up and provide a little bit of a spark? To an extent, they have, but then there's nights like last night where maybe critical mistakes do you in, night like tonight where the game completely gets away from you, and you do start, as that record drifts farther away from the 500 mark, to wonder, is this just going to end up being a completely lost year if something can't turn around dramatically?
I have a question. There's something I'm
Sure.
thinking about right now. Does this sting so much for Giants fans tonight because it's against the Dodgers? Like, would this game, say it's a couple weeks from now and the Phillies come to town and the Giants lose 10-2 to the Phillies, does it hurt this bad for them? Considering all the injuries, like if you just swapped out the opponent tonight and it was somebody besides the Dodgers,
Sure.
Is it going to sting as bad as it does tonight?
I think it stings more so. I don't think there's any question it stings more because it's the Dodgers, specifically because the Dodgers come in with their now 29-15 record, with a bunch of players on their roster that I think Giants fans look over, and it's envy, it's jealousy, it's we wish that as a fan base that those players would take our money and come and wear our City Connect that is see-through and bleach white and you can't sweat even the slightest in, or you're going to have to be changing your jersey at some point. Don't have to worry about that maybe as much in the cooler San Francisco evenings, but I don't know. I mean, I think that was a theme last night. I chose not last night to make that a part of the theme of last night's show. I know some of the writers, that was the theme. It's like, hey, the Dodgers come in, they got the big payroll, they got all the players the Giants fans wish that were playing for the Giants, and oh, by the way, it's going to be this way for years because a lot of these guys for the Dodgers just signed these major long contracts for huge money. So I tonight to me feels more like that kind of a night. Like last night, it was like good ball game, energy both ways.
Put up a fight,
back
take
and
it to
forth.
extras, yeah.
And it was just too many Dodger fans last night, without a doubt. But Giants fans could kind of puff their chest out a little bit in the moment over the course of a game that was fun to be in the ballpark for. Tonight was just like you almost want to hide somewhere.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. And I hope that Giants fans can understand how truly banged up the club is right now. And this was not the roster that you were expecting to see at this point of the season on opening day.
The problem, though, is the roster that you were expecting to see at the beginning of the year wasn't getting it done either. And so that's where I think it starts to mess with your head a little bit.
I can see that too. There are some positives though. I'm always going to try and be optimistic and take a positive stab at stuff. But tonight, the Giants, they walked more than they struck out. If we can look at that as one of the positives from a 10-2 blowout that kind of, the wheels fell off in the ninth inning and they scored 4. So maybe we can look at that as one of the positives from the evening.
Just a tough night all around. Dodgers beat the Giants 10-2. 808 KNBR is the number. 415-808-5627. We'll get to some texts on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line coming up here in just a moment. We'll also, not to swing it back the other way, we'll let everybody know about some of the injury updates, because I think as demoralizing as it was on the field with the end result tonight, some of the injury updates today, just tough, with Patrick Bailey going on the concussion IL again after he had just come off, and then the Jung-Hoo Lee news, which isn't, we don't totally know the end result here, but structural damage that is headed toward the worst of a couple of different scenarios at this point.
You definitely don't want to hear the words structural damage when you're talking about a shoulder. That's just, it doesn't sound good, unfortunately, for the Giants and for what is the rookie season for Jung-Hoo Lee coming from the KBO over to Major League Baseball. So we are going to hold out for tomorrow and get some more information as Jung-Hoo Lee gets a second opinion. But unfortunately, not looking so good for Jung-Hoo Lee in his shoulder.
All right, let's get to Gary, who's next here tonight on KNBR. Gary, you are on Sports Phone following the Giants' 10-2 loss to the Dodgers. What's going on tonight, Gary?
Yeah, I'm calling from South Central California there. That was a real disaster. But, some of those, their offense is bad. And like I said, the injuries don't help. But that Dodgers is a powerful team. Every time they come to San Francisco, they're always tough on the Giants. Even when they closed out Candlestick, remember the last 2 games, they took 2 out of 3. And when they opened that park, they came in and swept. I got the articles from those. And I know my friend whose name is also Gary, lives in Sonoma.
Uh-huh.
He was born in San Francisco, but he's a Dodger and a Giants fan. But he wants the Dodgers to win.
Wow. That's an odd combo.
I ran across a guy in Japantown. He says, I like the Dodgers, but I'm a Giants fan. He lives right in San Francisco.
Interesting.
But most of your Dodger traffic goes across the East Bay, because when they play the Oakland A's, a lot of Dodger fans show up over there.
Well, they show up everywhere. Dodger fans show up everywhere, especially now. I mean, they're feeling good about where their team is at, and rightfully so. Obviously, the championships haven't been there at the end of these seasons like Dodger fans would want them to be. And I know that's been something that Giants fans have been able to revel in, the fact that in a lot of these years where the Dodgers have had great teams, they haven't been able to win it. The one time they did, that 60-game weird World Series is played in Arlington, with a half-full stadium thing in 2020. And that's been it, which is in some ways insane to think that's been the only one. But the Giants, at least for the last decade and a half and really longer, because the Dodgers, and thanks Gary for the call, haven't won it in a full real season since 1988, and with the Giants having 2010 and 12 and 14, and the Dodgers being eliminated in the playoffs in 14 as the Giants, they kind of veered their own separate directions, with the Giants going on to the World Series and the Dodgers being eliminated in the division series. So the Giants have been able to kind of get the last laugh in a lot of ways, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to experience some painful nights. And I think the last 2 nights in their own way are both just indicative of the gap that exists right now between a Giants team that they thought was going to be improved, and got to be honest about it, has not been to this point, and a Dodgers team which dramatically improved and looks like they are as advertised.
They absolutely are. I mean, we said it last night, John, that the Dodgers, the first 3 batters in their lineup are most likely going to be Hall of Famers, and first ballot at that. So the Dodgers are an incredibly talented team. And if you make mistakes, like we're saying, if you make mistakes to this incredibly talented team, be that mental mistakes in the field or even pitching and missing up to these guys that can absolutely clobber the ball, that's what we saw tonight. So you just cannot make mistakes when you're playing the Dodgers.
All right, she's Sandra G. I'm JD John Dickinson from the bunker at Oracle Park here. Dodgers 10, Giants 2. We'll keep things rolling on the phone lines as long as the people want to talk. And JJ in San Francisco is next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, JJ.
Hey guys. How are you?
We're hanging in there tonight. Tough one for the Giants, and just trying to make some sense of this thing as they sit at 19-25 through all the injuries and the disappointing play here about a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, I'm a big Giants fan, first-time caller, and I guess my first Giants player that I ever got an autograph was I think I probably bought it though, but it was of Willie Mays.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good one. That's a good one, JJ.
Yeah, and then the first autograph that I got actual in person was from Rich Aurelia.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so anyways, I wanted to ask you guys, because I forgot to ask Bill the other day on his show.
Sure.
And I just wanted to get you what you guys thought, I guess from experts such as yourselves, I think I was hearing, I don't know if Farhan is going to be maybe in the same kind of situation as John Mozeliak of the St. Louis Cardinals, president baseball of operations, in that both teams kind of haven't done well in recent seasons, and I was kind of wondering if you think at the end of this season, if Farhan is going to be, maybe removed from his position.
Yeah, JJ, I look, if they keep playing at the pace that they're playing at, I think that does happen. I'll just level with you. No sugarcoating it. If this thing doesn't improve, I mean, I look up and thank you, JJ, for the call. 19 and 25. I do this from time to time. I know you don't like the math.
That's not me.
So I'm gonna you humor me for a second. 19 and 25 is 44 games now. So that is over 162. That's a 69 win pace. So I mean, and maybe the injuries change it a little bit. But here's the thing: if there are injuries that change the calculus. And we were just discussing this. It's the players that were signed to come in and produce to this point have not produced. Now the Giants are dealing with a lot of injuries. Young players are being pressed into action. That may not lead to wins at the level that everybody wants, and could be a reason as to, all right, this season, when it's all said and done, as to why maybe things didn't go as well. But I still think when you get to October, if that's the case, you'd have to – the only way things would stay the same in terms of who's in charge is if you can point to multiple young players that got the opportunity to play over 4 months, let's just say roughly, and prove themselves to be a part of the future. But based on, like, not maybe, not could be, not needs a little more time. Like, oh yeah, I'll just, Ramos is playing left field next year, or pick your player around the diamond. Luciano is the shortstop, when that was part of the conversation at the end of last year, and it hasn't worked out. So things are going to have to change dramatically. 70, 69, 69 and 93. That's not going to cut it when you spend extra. Like, that's just that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, at a quarter of a way through the season, the Giants need to not panic. They need to continue to keep fighting, and they got to hang in there, and they got to start getting guys healthy. But I do think if this is a conversation that you're having in August, and the Giants are still at this a little bit below average, I think 69 might be. Is that a C in school with grade wise? Is that a C or below? That's a D.
I think it's
so
a D.
You're on the cusp right there. And I think if that's the conversation you're having in August, then the seat is going to get hotter for everybody that's in a position to be making decisions in the organization. And that's when you start making some tough looks around and seeing something that actually has to change, because you can't continue to put a club out there that's going to be below average.
And here's the other part. And last year they were what? They won 79 last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was trying to bring up the baseball reference page. They won 79 last year. They were 82 maybe the year before, I want to say, and then 107. Like, this could wind up. I mean, they're on pace right now, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, and it's early. You don't want to get too carried away with it. 118 to go. There's my Marty Lurie update of the night. Put it on the board. 118 games to go, Sandra. But yep. This could potentially be the worst year of the Farhan Zaidi era.
That's a scary
like
thought.
That can't
That's a scary thought.
Like it's right now. A lot of time to change it. Right now, it's on that pace. Now you could win a bunch of games in a row and maybe come out of it. You get healthy. This team again, I think, projects to pitch. Logan Webb tomorrow. Snell's coming back. We'll get to those injury updates here as we continue to roll. But if this is what it's going to be, and there are no young players to point to that are part of the solution by September or October, then, I mean, I think that pretty much tells the story at that particular point in time. Justin is next. here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you tonight?
Really good. Calling from Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. All right.
Yeah.
What's happening from Tennessee?
I'm sorry?
What's happening from Tennessee?
Yeah, what part of Tennessee?
Near Nashville, just right outside of Nashville. I'm a longtime Giants fan. Grew up on the West Coast. So long story how I got out here. You guys don't want to hear it, I promise.
It's a good place to be, though. Nashville's like Nashville's just exploded. That's like one of the most popular areas in the country now. You got in early. Oh, we lose Justin? Yeah, you got in before it was popular.
What's that?
I said you got in before it was cool to be in the Nashville area, Justin.
I think so. I hope so.
What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, so why don't we put 7 minor league players on the field tomorrow? We've already called them all up. Why not have 7 Sacramento River Cats against the Los Angeles Dodgers tomorrow night?
Well, you might see something close to that. I mean, Luciano's back. Patrick Bailey goes back on the concussion IL. So Luciano comes back. You got Casey Schmidt up. You've got Matos already playing. I think Sandra's putting her lineup card together right now as we're going through this.
You gotta have Lamont at first, and then you gotta have Logan, obviously. So those are your 2. But the other 7.
So you're saying Reitz, or are you having Reitz catch or Sable?
Yep. No, I'm having Reitz catch.
Okay, so Reitz is going to catch, and then you're going to put what, Wisely at second?
Yep.
Luciano at short, Schmidt at third.
Short. Yep.
And then Matos and Ramos.
I'm not even sure what to do with that outfield because that didn't look good tonight. Center field did not look good tonight. He played a couple of those bounces. He's not used to the field.
Yeah,
but
he's not.
I think you leave him out there so he can.
Yeah, I think he's a corner outfielder. And again, they're kind of stuck right now because they really don't have a center fielder with the injuries and Jung-Hoo Lee. But I think he's a corner outfielder and not a center fielder. But
you put Fitzgerald at center and then move him over to right.
Yeah, you could go Ramos, Fitzgerald, Matos.
Good.
And then and then who does that leave for your DH? Sable, your DH?
Ooh. Yeah, but you want to put your backup catcher. So
that's
true. I had it in my mind that I forgot. Chapman.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, okay. So we got to play Chapman at third then, right? Come on, you got to put Chapman at third if he's gonna play.
This is just madness,
no,
you guys.
He's got to be DH. He's got to be DH. Get him some more at bats. The guy needs some more at bats. He needs some more swings. His defense is on point. Let's get him some more at bats.
Thanks for the call, Justin. Yeah, it's getting to the point where it might happen by default. Is kind of the segue into the injury notes, which is where I wanted to go with it. But it's one thing to pepper them in. It's another thing to it's out of necessity at this point. Have to have everybody playing all at the same time.
Yeah, we got an update from Bob Melvin post game on Bailey. So the Giants, they weren't comfortable with the consistency in how he was feeling. So he got scratched from the lineup. I think was that last night.
Yes,
he got scratched from the lineup last night with head cold. Something I think was going around the clubhouse, but he wasn't really feeling well, and it lingered. And he's got a history of concussions, and so they're playing it safe. So he goes back. Patrick Bailey goes back onto the 7-day concussion protocol as of this evening.
Yeah, I think retro to Sunday because he last played on Sunday, so that gives him a couple of days. But you're going to play it carefully regardless. So Luciano comes back, and then so that was the big news. And look, they need Bailey back. They need Bailey back to catch. They need Bailey back. He'd been one of the more productive hitters, for a stretch here. So I mean, they need Bailey, but at the same time, concussions and concussion symptoms are not something that you ever mess around with. So I do think it's smart for the Giants to try to get that cleared up as quickly, not necessarily as quickly as possible, as long as it's going to take, but to not mess around and put him back out in a game if he was less than 100, so close to being on the concussion IL. And sometimes you don't know, right? Sometimes you don't know certain symptoms present possibly as other things, and then that clears up and you're still not feeling quite right, and it all kind of led back to let's play it careful. That I think is 100% the right move, because what you don't want is some kind of a scenario where all of a sudden, we've seen this with catchers in the past, they're just done for the year.
Yeah,
and need that length of time to get back to 100.
Absolutely, and I know Bay Area baseball fans are going to know, like Ray Fosse, you take one hit the wrong way and that can end your career. So playing on the conservative and the safe side with your catcher, who is your guy behind the dish, the Giants, for Patrick Bailey, that's their guy. Joey Bart is no longer in the building, and they have put all of their eggs in the Patrick Bailey basket, so to speak. So they are playing conservatively. They're playing careful with concussions, as they should. So Patrick Bailey is going to be out for at least a week, retro to Sunday.
Yeah, and then the other news was the Jung Hoo Lee news, which we talked about a little bit earlier. The MRI revealing structural damage to the left shoulder. Second opinion on Thursday, and then that's going to be the next update then. And depending on the level of the structural damage, I mean, this thing could be season-ending. It could be a surgery and 4+ months, and you do the math on 4+ months, and 4 months, you're basically within a couple of weeks of the end of the season at that point anyway. So obviously hoping that it doesn't go that route for Jung Hoo Lee, who's one of those guys, again, that was brought in to be the leadoff hitter and improve the outfield defense in center field, which has been a problem for this team in the games that he's missed. He's had his own adjustment period. We discussed that last night. But, a big part of whether this team won a lot or didn't this year, Jung Hoo Lee was supposed to be a fun player to watch.
He was so fun. I mean, sitting in the stands, you've got Jung Hoo Lee does not have walk-up music. He's got the drum, and that was so exciting, I think, for the Giants fans to be able to do the Jung Hoo Lee chants, and everybody's really starting to get into it. So Jung Hoo Lee, in his rookie bid in Major League Baseball in the United States, is out for the time being, and we'll get more information Thursday. He is seeing docs out in L.A.
Yeah, Dr. Ella Trish in Los Angeles to look at that. And then the Jorge Soler injury struck in the head by his own batted ball during batting practice.
I saw this live, guys.
That's right.
I was out in the dugout on the field watching BP earlier this afternoon, and I didn't see it, but I heard it. And when I looked over, I saw that Jorge was in the squat at the plate. And
now, when you say you heard it, like you heard,
I heard it.
You heard like the ball off the bat.
I heard a sound that was
then another sound.
Yeah, exactly. I heard a sound that was not a hit. But it was
normal batting practice, and then what was that?
Yeah. So what was that? I look over, and he's in the squat. Gets up a little bit slowly. Pat Burrell was over there. Obviously, the Giants hitting coach was there while the guys are taking BP. And this was Soler's first live BP as he's making his comeback. So definitely being careful there with Soler, but it looked like you could see a knot in the broadcast later on tonight, the Giants and the Dodgers. Soler has a little knot above that left eye, so you could tell right where it got him, and it looks like it's not as bad as initially thought.
That's good.
And so Melvin said in postgame also that he's going to be going to SAC tomorrow for some at-bats. So that still looks to be the progression of his rehab assignment, and hopefully he'll get some at-bats and continue to amp back up and get ready to play, because the Giants sure do need him back in the lineup.
All right, 808 KNBR. We got a lot of people on the phone line, so let's keep things rolling here. We'll move some breaks around and get to the people as they want to talk. It is John Dickinson. It's Sandra G. We're here in the bunker. Austin Scott from the KNBR digital team has joined us. He's cranking. He's cranking. He's making lemonade out of some lemons tonight over there on the laptop from the post-game press conferences and everything that the folks had to say in the clubhouse for the KNBR socials. We'll talk to Austin coming up here in the 11 o'clock hour, unless he decides that he wants to hit In-N-Out Burger, maybe get a milkshake, like one of our callers earlier said they were going to. Austin's a big milkshake guy.
Did not know that.
Sandra, big milkshake guy.
Big milkshake guy.
Big dirty late night eater. Whoa, what?
Well, he was munching on some pretzels earlier in the press box, so I don't know. Maybe is that like a sweet and savory type things, pretzels and milkshakes?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Mike in San Francisco is next here on KNBR. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. How's it going tonight?
We're doing well. Yeah, you got it.
Right on. I just called tonight. Got a few emotions going on, a few things to talk about. I'll start with us starting with a former Dodger employee, Farhan, and what he's done and what we haven't done since the playoffs of 2021, beat the Dodgers. It's weighing on me, and I just wanted to say, like, maybe it is time to shake it up and make a major trade. When's the last time one of you guys can remember there being a major trade, at this point of the season, even in Major League Baseball, between that didn't involve prospects so much, but involved some actual, veterans?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, it doesn't happen nearly as often as it used to. I mean, growing up as a kid, it did seem to happen, but I can't. I don't know. But you gotta. At this point, I mean, who would you look to trade at this point if you were going to look to make some kind of a move? The only moves I think you can make are the kind of move, Mike, where it's your guy that's maybe not coming through at the level that you hoped, and you look to another team maybe with a guy at another position, and he's not playing to the level that they'd hoped, and you just hope that the change of scenery helps both players and helps both teams. Other than that, unless you're looking at giving up and don't come at me, Giant. I mean, unless you're looking at giving up Logan Webb or Duvall or somebody like that. I mean, you're basically looking for, your problem for my problem type of a deal.
Yeah, and sometimes I think you hit the nail on the head with the change of scenery thing. Sometimes it does work like that for the best. But, a couple other things.
Sure.
Yeah, we can talk about that more. But one thing is Jung-Hoo Lee. Regardless of what happens with him over the next few days, I just want to say it's been a pleasure watching him in center field. And I think a couple of the guys that we're looking at a little bit closely these days, I'll just say Matos. But Matos played a fine center field last year, and he's obviously got off to a little bit of a rough start here, tracking the ball. And but I think he'll come around. And it's great to see him and Ramos bringing some instant success with the bats. And Luciano up. Yeah, it's a good time. Let's just not call it a great time out.
No, you definitely don't want to do that. They're for the long-standing Warrior fans out there, you definitely do not want to call it a great timeout. That evokes a certain response. Hey, thanks for the call, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mike's line open, 808 KNBR. We do have some other people that want to talk, but a couple of things there. I do think I get the sense, Sandra, it's hey, if you're going to lose, and look, nobody wants to just say you're going to lose, but if you're going to lose, there is, I've heard this a lot, just kind of making the rounds and talking to fans and group chats with friends and that. It's like, if you're going to lose, you want to lose with the young guys and at least have some kind of benefit toward future growth and maybe players that could be a part of the solution, even if it winds up not being 2024.
Yeah, you don't want to lose 10-2 with the opening day lineup here as a Giants fan. That's just something you don't want to do. And you could hear the disappointment in the voice of our last caller. I mean, this series, this rivalry is so deeply rooted in Giants baseball, and you don't want to lose 10-2. You've got, I mean, I'm sure.
Well, and you don't want to be 0-5 either.
You definitely don't want, and that makes it sting even more, I'm sure. But I mean, I know growing up as a Giants fan that I was scared to go to soccer practice on days that I knew that we had lost to the Dodgers because one of my coaches was a Dodgers fan. And you've got to answer to people and say, hey, yeah, I know. We just, didn't have it that night. And it's embarrassing. And I think that that's what happened tonight, especially in that ninth inning that just got busted wide open. So you definitely, the rivalry, it runs deep, and it's understandable to hear the disappointment in the Giants fan voices after a game like tonight. But on the other side, I will always put a positive spin. It does allow for opportunities for the young guys to get out there and get those at bats, get that time out on the field, and try to at least get some reps in where maybe they wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's what is to come for Luciano specifically.
He got that last at bat. He got pinch hit.
Yeah, and I know there was a text had come in on the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Why pinch hit for Yaz? Well, because you want to get Luciano in at bat. Yaz had a couple of hits tonight.
He did.
But you know who Mike Yastrzemski is at this point. You want to get Luciano, I think, ready for a little bit more consistent run. That's the one that, the reason that Luciano had not been brought up was because they wanted him to be playing every day at the minor league level in AAA.
Those reps. Exactly.
Get those reps. But it got to the point where and I know you were talking about this over the weekend a lot with Marty, it got to the point where so many players injured, you're getting low on the 40-man roster, and he's literally like one of the last guys you could get. All right, call him up, bring him up.
Yeah.
I think you need to figure out a way to play him, though. If your plan was to play him every day at Sacramento, I think your plan needs to be play him consistently enough to where you're not hurting his development because now all of a sudden he's sitting. So, I know it's tough, and I don't think maybe at the beginning of the day they totally knew what the situation was going to be with Bailey. And then, they probably had some idea, and then, all right, we're going to do this with Luciano. There's still Sable and Reitz on the roster to be able to catch. But to me, if you're going to go to Luciano, you need to give Luciano an opportunity to get out there. And, and look, Casey Schmidt's played. He's played. He hasn't hit a lot, but he's played pretty good defensively. Had the walk-off hit the other day. But I think they have to figure out ways to get Luciano in there.
Yeah, they're going to have to, like you're saying, John,
while he's here.
They're going to have to find ways to get him involved. But Casey Schmidt, like you're saying, he's been contributing to the club. So that's a good sign for Giants fans. And when you've got so many guys that have just come up from Sacramento, the thing is that I'm thinking immediately today, Bryce Eldridge, he moves up, and so does Reggie Crawford. So the things are changing all around the Giants organization with the amount of injuries that have been happening up here in the show. And then you've got guys that are getting their opportunities to move up. They're going from the Squirrels, they're heading up, they're becoming River Cats. You've got guys that are River Cats that are coming up here to the major league. So things are moving around. You got to get them their reps, but looking for those opportunities for these young guys.
Roy and San Leandro next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Roy. Roy, are you there?
Hello?
Hey, Roy, is this Roy?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Brandon from Chico.
Oh, hey, Brandon. Well, we got a little mixed up here on the line. What's up, Brandon? How you doing, man?
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I'm just fine. How are you?
Yeah, that's great. What's on your mind tonight, Brandon?
Well, a number of things, but I'd like to keep it as concise as possible.
Sure.
Of course, but I'm finding that the pushback on Bob Melvin is wildly unnecessary. It's none of this is his fault whatsoever, but you're seeing a lot of this on social media, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and everything. A lot of people are really upset with Bob Melvin as if any of this
really
his fault whatsoever. I certainly haven't seen a lot of that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take your word on that. I haven't seen as much of it, but I'll take your word for that. But I'll just say this, and I'll keep it short with you and let you finish your point, Brandon. I'm with you 100%. Like none of this is on Bob Melvin at all. Yeah. So he's played the veterans, and now he's being forced to play the young players. The veterans weren't playing well. And now it's, all right, let cobble together a lineup with what you got and try to go out there and compete against a team that's got 3 Hall of Famers at the top of their lineup and
my Lord.
I mean, and then Will Smith after that, who's a pretty darn good player himself.
Who very well might be a Hall of Famer himself.
Yeah,
we'll see,
let's not get carried away, guys.
It's yeah.
Come on.
I mean, probably not, but at this point. But I mean, look, if they go on and win a bunch of World Series and he's hitting cleanup and he's as clutch as he's been, maybe. It's probably a little too early to tell. Not at this point, but
no, it is. But if he continues as he has been, then who knows? But this is all to say that I think that a lot of people were very wrong in their ire and their anger and their rage against Gabe Kapler last season. I really truly believe that, and I know that I am very much in the minority saying that, but I truly believe that a lot of people were very wrong in saying that Gabe Kapler is the reason why this team sucks. This team fell apart. This team can't do anything. I really don't believe that. I really don't because look at what's happening now. You look at someone like Bob Melvin, who is as talented and excellent of a manager as he is. There's only so much you can do as a manager,
I think that's a fair point. And look, I'll own it. And I mean, I was one of those. Like I thought, I don't think Kapler was part of the solution. And it was,
I agree with that.
And so I think that was why it was time to go. I also think, I wanted to see what it looked like personally with Farhan if you were going to give Farhan one more year. And I can definitely understand if the Giants chose not to give Farhan one more year. But I think the connection to Melvin saved him because I think he had the ability, given his history with Melvin with the A's, to somebody that Bob was comfortable coming over and working with. So I think in some ways Melvin saved Farhan, or the ability to get Melvin saved Farhan in some ways, and wanting to make sure that Melvin was comfortable in taking this job. So I think there was a little bit of that involved there, but I'll be honest. Yeah, Kapler wasn't part of the solution, but I do think you can say that maybe he wasn't. If you watched them tactically night in, night out, he really wasn't that big a part of the problem in terms of like in-game decision making and things like that, because it was just all so pre-programmed. Like it just felt so pre-programmed that he was just doing what he was being told to do, or what the iPad said, or what the stat sheet said. So that being said, Brandon, I don't think he was part of the solution, and I do think they're in a better place with Bob Melvin. But now you got to get some talent in here that fits. You can't build your team. There was a caller I heard, I think it was on Lasky's show over the weekend. You can't build your team in the transfer portal. And it kind of felt like the Giants built their team in the transfer portal a little bit. They couldn't get anybody to take their money. And then you get to March and you found some good deals on some guys that had misplayed the market. And now all of a sudden you're signing guys that, you want, but they weren't your first necessarily second or third choices either. And so you kind of wind up in this position where you're gambling on some guys having some big years. Brandon, thank you so much. We got some other people that want to talk tonight, so we'll thank you for the phone call there. I know that I kind of went off on a little tangent there, Sandra, but yeah. Yeah,
I hear you, JD, and I think no matter who the manager is, no matter the circumstances, at the end of the day, it comes down to the old saying, the players got to play.
Yeah.
When your number and your name gets called, you got to be able to go out there and you got to produce and you got to contribute. And if you can't do that, then you're going to lose your spot. And then, like the captain of the ship, the manager can take the fall when the players aren't producing and they're not playing at their best. So I think that's, what has happened in the past, and it will continue to happen all over Major League Baseball. That's what happens. We just came out from a series against the Reds where they had lost 9 of 10 games, and you hear the rumblings of, hey, David Bell, he's on the hot seat. And is it because David Bell's a bad manager? I don't think so. Is it because the players aren't producing? It could be. So I think that's just one of the symptoms of not winning games.
Yeah, I'll take Bob Melvin 11 days out of 10 over Gabe Kapler, but you got to get the players in here. And it's all got to fit, right? Like, it's tough. And I think, as much as Farhan Zaidi and Bob Melvin knew each other, comfortable with each other, with the time and the overlap with the A's. You know, it's one thing to say you're going to have an older school type manager who understands, you know, the way that Farhan builds a team and the way he wants things to operate, but also kind of have more of an older school vibe to it, right? With the coaching staff and the way you go about attacking different things. It's one thing to do that, but I've always wondered, you know, truly the way that baseball's gone in a lot of these front offices, and look, it's most front offices now. It's where it's about the numbers and it's about what you're going to do and matchups and pitch selection and it's all of those things. There is a part of me that wonders, like, do you have to go full bore with that in order to have it work? And so I had the thought, as much as I was not a Kapler fan at all, I've had the thought where it's like, well, if you're going to do it that way, you might as well go full bore that way and just have the guy that's going to push the button that the front office always wants pushed, as opposed to having more of a blend of how you go about, you know, working and operating your day to day with the analytics and everything else kind of peppered in to help you through the day.
I hear you. And my first thought is, you know, baseball is a game of numbers. Right, it is a game of numbers and it's a game of statistics, but it's also a game of feel. And you have to be able to feel the way that the game is going. And your manager, the guy that is calling the shots, he's got to know his guys. Hey, how did so and so sleep last night? Did they not get enough sleep, or something's going on in their family, or maybe their dog was sick, or who knows? Anything can happen. But you got to have a guy that knows their guys and knows if maybe that's going to be their spot. And how are they feeling about certain situations? Or is pinch hitting, maybe that's not their thing. Even though the matchup says righty or lefty or whatever it is, you got to be able to feel those things out, and you got to be able to know your guys. So as much as baseball is a game of numbers and it is a game of statistics, and now the stats are just, I mean, everything is a statistic.
Yeah. And look, I'm not trying to say, the Giants use, Melvin's not looking at the numbers or anything. I don't want to come off like I'm it's the same thing. Bruce Bochy got kind of pegged as, well, he's not doing, the Giants were way into analytics, and Bochy had all the numbers and played all the, he did it in his own way, and Melvin does the same thing. I just wonder, and look, I'm not saying bring back Kapler or anything like that, or it would be better if he was here.
Take.
I'm not saying that by any stretch, and those that have listened to me over the years will know that. To me, the first red flag on Farhan was, why would you hire that guy? That was I actually thought Farhan was pretty sharp and to the point, but then that was kind of where I was like, yeah, I don't know. Why would you hire him? And then they have the 107 win year, and it looked all right, and things obviously fell apart when it became. It got away from him basically the last couple of years in terms of the clubhouse, I think, more than the day-to-day maybe baseball
Well,
moves.
Absolutely. I mean, think about all of the guys from the Giants dynasty that have gone in these last couple of seasons. I mean, you cannot ignore the fact that Buster Posey is no longer in that clubhouse.
Well, and those guys were on that team that had the success.
Exactly. You can't ignore the fact that Brandon Crawford isn't here anymore, that Brandon Belt isn't here anymore, and any of those guys that were still around winning those championship seasons. And so it's not easy to replace those shoes in a clubhouse. And I think the Giants are finding their bearings and finding who the leaders are going to be. And you've seen who those leaders now that are stepping up. But Logan Webb was such a young guy when Buster ended up leaving. But thank goodness there's that crossover there for the Giants where you know that, hey, this guy was in the clubhouse at one point in time with Buster Posey. And that's a good place to be. But there's those years that are in the back of, and they're in the rear view. They're close enough to remember and still be hurting from not winning as much, but they're there.
Yeah, and Bob Melvin's been a multi-time manager of the year. You give him talent, he wins with it, period. He'll figure it out. And so to me, this is not an indictment. This team is not talented enough, and the players who have been brought in have not performed at the level that they need to. And now they're banged up, so you're getting an opportunity to see the younger players, and we'll see. I do think the more the younger players have to play more regularly, it does change maybe the expectation level a little bit on the day-to-day. But at the end of all of it, the young players have to they have to prove that they are worth keeping around 25, 26, 27 are going to be a part of that next winning Giants team, even if it isn't this season. All right, a couple of more here, and then we'll get I owe Cole Lapelt a break here. It's just we just start and we get the calls and we just roll. Like I think we're over an hour now, just straight. Right out of the chute.
Sports Phone is back, baby.
Here on KNBR, the sports leader. Let's go to Colbert, who is next. Hey, Colbert, longest hold on the board here tonight on a Tuesday on the sports leader.
Yeah, I am disgusted with all this. Hey, by the way, before I got an autograph with Tyler Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
He gave me an autograph, and anyway, but this is disgusting. And are you guys gonna talk about like my girlfriend and I have been together many years, and she doesn't like me because I like the Giants, and she likes the Dodgers, right? So when I went out with her many times, she used to tease me lately about the fact that the Giants are not that good anymore. And I told her that I was going to make sure that the Giants would get better, but they're not getting better. And I'm upset about that because I think they ought to fire everybody and put, as a new manager, they ought to hire like Howard Stern.
Okay. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hot take.
Thanks for the call. Yeah. From Colbert to Pat next here on the sports leader. Pat in Mexico tonight. What's going on in Mexico, Pat?
Oh, it's hot.
Okay.
But nothing much. It's nice. I've been a Giants fan for years, and I wanted to ask a question. I've been trying to Google this, and I can't get to, because I don't have it. I don't watch TV,
Okay.
And I'm limited on information because the Wi-Fi is a little difficult down here. Sometimes.
Well, we are here for you, Pat. We are here to help.
I appreciate that. Well, what I wanted to know first is isn't there any kind of netting or something that they could put instead of a wall or a chain link fence? I mean, like
where?
I don't mean netting like.
You're talking about when Jung-Hoo Lee got hurt?
Yeah, I mean, how do they? And I'm just asking. I'm just curious. How do they? Isn't there any way they can have something that would protect the players from injuries like this? That could be installed like not a knitting, but kind of a soft or even padding.
Well, it's usually a padded wall. I mean, that's the thing. But in that area and where Jung-Hoo Lee got hurt, it's the area where the bullpen is.
Yeah, that was the outside of the visitors' bullpen right there. You could see they had all those bands, exercise bands.
Yeah, and so. Yep, and so you've got the lip at the top, and then you've got the netting underneath. There's a little crease there basically where you can get lodged in, and so that's what ended up happening. But yeah, I mean every ballpark is unique in its own way. But if that was, I had the thought of not that necessarily you could do anything about it because there are some parks. I mean, hell, you go to Wrigley Field and you got brick.
Behind that ivy is a brick wall.
I mean, it's a brick wall. So it just, it's kind of, unfortunate, obviously, for Jung-Hoo Lee, but it's part of baseball.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just wondered if there was a way even in the park up there at Oracle.
Yeah, well, it's padded through most of it, but again, you got the brick wall with the padding, and then you've got the little areas in and around the bullpens where they've got it where you can see into the bullpens and see out of the bullpens if you're, so the guys can actually see the game that's going on.
Yeah.
And at a certain point too, you got to think, even if that's like a mattress out there, you got a professional athlete running full speed.
Yeah, totally.
With their eyes on a ball, no matter what you're hitting, there's going to be.
And it could have happened, and that's true. And that's a great point, Sandra. And thanks, Pat. Appreciate the call here tonight on Sports Phone. Yeah, it could have been the same result into the normal full padded wall that you see all over Major League Baseball. In fairness, you just don't know when you have somebody as you said, going that full speed, trying to make a big-time play on the ball.
Yeah.
Jake and Livermore next here. A couple of more calls here, and we'll get caught up on a quick timeout here before we head into the 11 o'clock hour. What's going on, Jake?
Hey, not much. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing all right. We're trying to make some sense of, a difficult night and a couple of difficult nights and what is turning into a difficult season for the Giants.
Agreed. I got a couple points. I hate to be the optimistic or broken record Giants fan about the pitching staff, but I still think when Snell comes back that we have, one of the top starting rotations in baseball. I mean, with, Webb, Snell, Harrison, Hicks, now showing that he could be elite, and then Wynn, even though he got a little beat up tonight. But I think with our pitching staff, we can be competitive. The offense, we just got to hope that they come around. And also, on the injury front, besides Jung Hoo, I feel like most of the injuries aren't long-term. So, I mean, most of these guys are going to come back, not in a super long time. I feel like these guys can come back pretty soon, and hopefully that'll get the offense rolling. I feel like the pitching is also not being as great because we don't have any offense. I mean, the pitching builds off the momentum on offense. And I think once we get some of these guys back, Conforto, I don't know where Estrada's been. I don't really know what's going on with him. But once we get some of these guys back that have actually been hitting the ball pretty well, you get Chapman going. Hopefully Soler comes back and can hit the ball. I feel like, we can still be competitive as a team. Like I said, I don't want to be the optimistic Giants fan because that's not usually where I'm at.
Well, I mean, here's the reality. For as bad as it's been, and they're 19-25. They're 2.5 games out of the last wild card spot, which is currently the Padres, who are under 500 themselves at 22-23. So it's not like, I mean, right now there's 5 teams over 500 in the entire National League. So they're not getting buried. But and I'm with you on the pitching. I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a stat at you guys real quick. But coming into tonight, the Giants were 3rd in Major League Baseball with the lowest home ERA, behind Atlanta at 1.28. Seattle was at 1.34. The Giants are in at 1.82, and the Dodgers are right behind them at nearly 2. So, like you're saying, the Giants pitching is going to be one of those bright spots for them this season once everybody's back and healthy, which will be sooner than later. Let's not forget that we've got Alex Cobb and Robbie Ray, who are in the wings, getting healthy themselves. So that's definitely something that's to be yet to be seen for the Giants, but it is coming up sooner than later in the future.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, go ahead. Jump in.
Also, I was thinking too is that we've been on a stretch of playing really good teams. I mean, we played the Dodgers, we've been playing the Phillies, we've been playing all these teams. You got to imagine too, we're going to have a 3-game series against the White Sox. We're going to have a bunch of series with a bunch of teams that aren't very good, which we've done pretty well against the teams that aren't playing very well. So that also is something to look forward to as well.
And I think also that this has been quite a stretch for the Giants these last couple of weeks. There has not been very many days off peppered, and you don't get very many in the course of a Major League Baseball season. But this has been a longer stretch for them, and they've coming off of a big trip out on the East Coast, coming back home. This has been another long stretch playing good teams also. So not to make excuses, but these are the facts.
Well, and you play everybody now. Thanks, Jake. To that point, you play everybody, right? You're going to get the division teams. You're going to play 13 times, but you play everybody, and the Phillies are coming in again the Memorial Day and the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, but then you're done with the Phillies, right? Everybody's in, aside from your division opponents in the National League, it's one home series and one away series, so you can start maybe checking off some of the boxes as far as, all right, you're done with the Phillies and you're halfway done with the Dodgers basically after tomorrow. I think you play them again the end of June, and then later on after the All-Star break down at Dodger Stadium again. So yeah, this team was built to pitch. They were built to have 2 aces. They were built to have this 2-time Cy Young winner and then runner-up, and then Logan Webb,
and the runner-up,
and then Logan Webb.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so and Harrison and Hicks have both been tremendous to this point.
They sure have. And those were question marks at the beginning of this season. You did not know what you were going to get. You've got Hicks converting to a starting pitcher. You've got Harrison, who you're not sure what you're going to get from the rookie, but look at them now.
Look at them now, and it becomes a scenario where if you're looking for a pathway out of it, it's going to start with the rotation. If there's a way out for the Giants to get back to 500 and then see where they're at, and hell, 500 right now would put you in the last wild card spot.
That's not a bad place to be.
So it is May, and
it's May,
and it's still technically, at least for another, I guess, 13 hours. It's the first half of May.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's still early. All right, let's go ahead and pause here. It is KNBR 104.5 and 680, San Francisco. It's John Dickinson. It's Sandra G. We're in the bunker at Oracle Park. Dodgers beat the Giants 10-2. We'll come back. We'll get more phone calls. We'll bring in our buddy Austin Scott from the digital side. Roy and Mark hold the line. I'm coming to you next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, dial the digits and dive in. 415-808-KNBR. Sports Phone KNBR continues right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
Yeah, it hit him on top of the eye. I think he's good, and was planning on going to Sacramento tomorrow to get some at bats.
Well, that's good news in a tough situation from Bob Melvin on Jorge Soler, who was hit by his own batted ball in the cage during batting practice as if, what can go wrong will. I mean, for the Giants.
It was a couple of scary moments today at the ballpark because you've got Soler, who up until post-game remarks from Bob Melvin, we did not know what was happening. And my first thoughts was there's a ton of little bones in your face right there.
Yeah, orbital
that could
fracture.
really cause some issues for the guy that's taken his first live BP sessions after coming off of his injury. So
no doubt. And I mean, I thought even you could get a concussion too.
Oh, absolutely. They're real banged up right now, the Giants, with concussions. And then you see Matt Chapman goes into Rojas at second base with a collision that I was holding my breath because you did not know what was going to happen. The way that Rojas's glove goes into Matt Chapman, knocks off his helmet. Chapman's shoulder goes in. Rojas's back foot is firmly planted on the bag, and you've got Chapman there barreling into it with his shoulder. There could be some ice going on in the clubhouse tonight for Matt Chapman.
All right, as promised, Roy and San Leandro next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Roy.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking my call.
You got it.
I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say, I just think in some ways the Giant organization within needs to change some. Because if you notice, less than 2-3 years ago, Baltimore was the doormats of baseball. Okay, and now look at them. Okay, what I'm trying to say is that the quality of players that the Giants have brought up, I mean, they don't kind of like more or less fit the bill. A few of them do, but the majority of them don't. I mean, if you look at the Giant outfield, for example, they cast offs from other teams, like Carl Yastrzemski's grandson, and they haven't had really what you might say good outfielders for, they had some during the time they were winning those championships. But what I'm saying is that the quality, like when Buster Posey and that group came, they all came one by one. The Panda, Buster Posey, the first baseman, what's his name?
Yeah, Belt. And then you signed some veterans around him, or you made some trades, and
exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying, and like the Giants need to go back. Okay, don't misunderstand me. You win with pitching. Okay, go ahead, get your pitcher if you want. Then look for the rest of the position players, catcher, second baseman, outfielders, all of it, the whole works. And the Giants, it just seemed to me like they just constantly stuck on, like even Mike Krukow get up early in the morning talking all that, we can try to get him with a slider and all that. And pitching is fine, but don't get ridiculous with it. Go for other positions. Look at the quality of players that you're getting, just like Baltimore did. Look what they did.
Well, they went into Baltimore went into a big time rebuild. They basically tanked for a few years. They strung together some high picks, and they've hit on those picks. And a lot of teams do this. The Astros did this, years ago. The Cubs did it the year that leading up to the years that they won, and then added players from other organizations. A lot of teams have done it. The Rangers won the World Series last year. They signed some big-time free agents, but also had a bunch of young players that came up along the way as well, Roy. So, yeah, thank you for the call. I think what Roy's getting at is and I think 2021 is part of this as well, because we were talking about that 1 year and everything clicked and all of that. The Giants have been good at finding players in other organizations to come in and be productive for them. They've probably been a little too dependent on that. Like Yastrzemski was somebody that didn't pan out elsewhere. They find him. He comes in. He's a real productive player. I think Estrada fits that mold. But you can't be completely built that way. And you have to, you can, Wade is another example of that kind of a player. And so, in the 2021 year, it was a lot of guys like that, with the three players that had been here in the championship era among the position players that, with Posey and Belt and Crawford, had resurgent years, right? They looked kind of on the downturn, and then all three of them by the end of that, all three of them had really good years. Buster Posey, last year of his career, had an excellent year.
Yeah.
When it was all said and done, was a carrier, and these other. At some point, you either have to develop a blue chip superstar, or you have to be able to sign one in free agency, and the Giants haven't been able to do either. And that's why a position everyday player, a bopper, a box office kind of a player. And so we've talked a ton about the inability to sign and all the different reasons why and this, that, and the other. But if you can't get them to sign, then you got to develop them. And that's where they've been fine at they've been fine with Yastrzemskis and Estradas and Wades. But those guys aren't the carriers. You got to have the other. You got to have the other guys turn into all-stars around them, and then those guys are the carriers, and the other players that we're talking about. They're just too much a part of the meat of the sandwich, I think, for this team right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to fall back on the players got to play. When they get up here, they got to be able to play. And I think, even if the caller right now just mentioned like the Orioles. Well, even you've got the number one superstar stud Holiday that comes up, and he didn't perform, so there he goes. You think you might have that guy in your farm system, or you think you might have that guy in the minor leagues, you bring him up, and it might not be the right time. So it's all getting everything right, the timing right, the cohesion of the clubhouse with whatever players that you've got up there. The vibe's got to be good. And I think all of that is to be taken into consideration.
Mark in Klamath Falls, Oregon, next here on KNBR. Hey, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How's Oregon tonight?
Oh, it's really nice. Windy and warm.
Okay.
Wind and warm.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So you've got some solutions, Mark. What do you got for us?
I'm going to have a couple here. First of all, for the clubhouse, for the players, have they had a closed-door meeting or anything as lately, have you heard? Just with the players? Like, they need something like a Hunter Pence speech, or someone needs to step up, maybe do a speech, or something where they, they need to play like they have fun, just relax, step back a little bit.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know that there's been anything reported on that in the last couple of days. I do think and this is a different line. This is not a rah-rah like let's everybody. I do think the Logan Webb comments from after his start on Friday, and what he called it dog bleep.
Oh yeah.
And again, that's different. I know that's not exactly what you're talking about, but I do think there was a different energy. Like, I do think when he speaks, it sets a different tone. And I think it set a tone that really it carried him for 3 days. Like they looked like a different team for 3 days.
They were fired up.
Yeah.
They beat Cincinnati, and then they played a game last night that they could have won. Couple mistakes. Dodgers are super talented. The Dodgers end up winning. And then, all right, that momentum's gone, and now it's kind of back to the way it's been, at least for the Dodgers and Giants tonight. So I think that's, again, I know that's not exactly what you're talking about, but I know these guys are talking. I know Melvin's got them, keeping them together and keeping them fighting, and also telling them they got to clean it up. Like, Melvin is a tell you got to clean it up guy. Like he doesn't go for sloppy baseball. Like, that's the one thing.
Yeah.
That drives him nuts. Like, he can take maybe some guys not coming through, but the errors and the free 90 feet and
the mental mistakes. That's stuff that Melvin is not going to go for, and you will hear about it from him.
So
he's that old school guy.
There's an accountability, I think, that's there. And so I think that part they've got covered. I just think sometimes when you sign free agents, even if they aren't the Ohtani level in terms of money, or Freddie Freeman or Betts, obviously a trade, but then signed a huge deal. I think sometimes there's a little pressure to perform to the contract, and I do think maybe there's been a little bit of that in play with Soler, guy coming in, new situation. He's won World Series though. Like, he's been in the throes of that. Chapman, comes in wanting to be able to I think help his guy. I mean, big part of the reason Matt Chapman's on the Giants is because of his relationship with Bob Melvin and going back to the A's days. And it's like, so I think there's a pressure to want to help, your guy. And so I think maybe there has been a little bit too much pressure from some of those guys to, in the early part of the season. Jung-Hoo Lee maybe to a certain extent, coming over from the KBO. But bottom line is, I haven't. If anything, it is take a deep breath. But when you lose and then you have injuries, it's harder for everybody to kind of look around and gather, because it's not the team that you necessarily anticipated that you were going to have at the beginning of it.
Yeah, maybe they need Jeff Chent to call and say, "Enjoy the game."
Thanks, Mark.
Loosen it up a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. I don't know. What's your sense? I know you've been in the clubhouse and down in the press conferences. I feel like I don't feel like they're tight.
I don't feel like they're tight either, and I feel like you're not going to get that kind of rah-rah speech really in May, in the beginning first half of May. And I think with the guys that you've got in the Giants clubhouse right now, this is kind of like a lead by example type group. I don't know if you're going to get anybody on a soapbox in there. That's, to be seen maybe later in the season if things continue to go the way that they are. I know last season that Tyro was one of the guys that stepped up and was and said something. And these guys, they're pros, and they don't like to lose. And I don't think that anybody is severely panicking right now. I know that the Giants are taking into consideration the amount of injuries that they have. As long as you've got the guys going in there every day and they're working their tails off and they're the big leaguers and they are going in with that attitude, I think that you're in a good place and you're not panicking.
Sandra G. from Talking Baseball with Marty Lurie on the weekends here on KNBR. John Dickinson. We're going to bring in our guy Austin Scott coming back here. Still have a couple of lines open. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. You can join the conversation there. We'll clean up some text messages. And, we are live on YouTube and Twitch as well. Join the conversation. We're keeping it rolling here until midnight from the bunker at Oracle Park on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is Sports Phone KNBR. Dial the digits or send us a text at 415-808-KNBR. We're streaming on YouTube all damn day at KNBR 1045.
You know, obviously there's a lot of turnover at this point in time, and we don't have our main guys out there. But we just got to keep fighting and not let it crater a little bit. We got to hang in there and win some games and start getting some guys back.
Yep, that's all you can do, and it starts with Logan Webb tomorrow as the Giants lose tonight 10-2. Well, Sultan's a swing. They need the Sultans a swing. Dire Straits?
That's what it is.
Austin's like, who? What? Yeah, Cole Lapelt on the ones and twos.
Austin was bobbing his head like he's heard the song his whole life.
Well, it's a jam.
I thought you knew.
It's a banger.
Well, as you know, in the setup, I don't have a headset, so I'm actually not hearing the music.
Oh, so you were vibing off of us?
I was literally just vibing off
of our joy.
Your joy.
Oh, yeah, you know what? I forgot there's a live stream.
I was jamming out to absolutely nothing.
Because we were both into it. It was,
I had the air guitar
Well, that
going.
makes a lot more sense, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was like, wow, this is the jam.
I just wanted to match the energy.
You got to.
Air guitar, and you were vibing out to the instrumental, and I was just playing drums.
Yeah, Austin Scott from KNBR Digital joining us here as we welcome you back. It is Sports Phone KNBR Post-Giants Game Edition. 808 KNBR is the number to join the conversation. We do have a couple of calls still to get to here, so we appreciate it. And Bob Melvin preaching patience tonight, and that's what Marty in San Francisco wants to – not the Marty, no, because he went
Could
back
it be?
What's going on tonight, Marty?
Hey, no, it's not Marty Lurie.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But first, I just want to thank you kids for waving to me every time I pass by the bunker window. I appreciate it.
Oh, Marty, yes.
Leave it alone. Okay.
Absolutely.
But, so here's the thing. Some people have been saying get rid of Bob Melvin. You know,
who's been saying that? Marty, tell me, help me out here. Maybe I'm living under a rock. I haven't heard people getting on Melvin's case. That's the one thing I haven't heard. But
there was one of the callers said that tonight, and then I hear it around where I'm at the ballpark.
Okay.
You know, but folks got to look at. We are rebuilding right now. It's obvious. And if you go back to the great Bruce Bochy when he started, you know, back in 2007. What was our record then? 71 and 91.
Yeah, they had a 72 and a 71 win year back to back in 07 and 08, I believe.
Exactly. 2008 was 72 and 90.
Yep.
In 2009, well, we got a little better, 88 and 74, but we still finished in third place.
Right.
You know, and then 2010, the year we won it all, 92 and 70. So it takes time. You can't just think we got a new manager right there, and Bob's a great manager. I love him to death. But it's going to take time to get these new guys to gel and get it all together. And we know the Bay Area, they want a World Series right now, just like the Niners want the Super Bowl right now. You know?
I don't even think the Giants fans want the World Series. I mean, they would love to have it. I don't even think Giants fans want the World Series right now. I just think they want to win 85, 86 games and have some players that look like keepers for the next decade.
Yeah, and that'll come. These guys, they just need to get ready. They all haven't played a lot together either. This is pretty much many of their first season together. So they got to learn how to play with each other And then obviously the injuries aren't helping. So what we've had the last couple nights was basically our minor leaguers playing out there. And it's a lot of pressure on them. But it's going to happen for us. Folks just got to be patient and let it roll. I mean, if they want like Bruce did, they're going to wait a couple of years and we're going to have it again.
All right.
That's basically what I see.
I'll say this, and thank you, Marty, for the call. 2007 was a little weird. That was Bruce Bochy's first year, was the 2007 year. That was Bond's last year. That was also the first year that Tim Lincecum came up. He was drafted the year before. Lincecum came up in Bond's last year, so there was a little bit of a bridge there between the two eras, if you will. But that team, I think, was not – they didn't come out until basically what announced that they were rebuilding was when Bonds wasn't coming back at the end of 2007. It was, late in September, and it's like, yeah, Bonds is not coming back. It's over. And so then the 2008 year, they truly, as more than any other year I can remember in my lifetime, the Giants said, yeah, we're just going to play the young guys. And like that's the only year I can remember where they essentially announced that they weren't going to be very good, but they were going to try to figure out, who they had or whatever. And, we talked about this a little bit, Austin, before you were up. It was, 2008, Brian Wilson became a closer. They were not a good team, but he became a closer. He had 40-something saves, and Sergio Romo was up that year. Pablo Sandoval came up at the end of that year. And, they had pieces of what was to come. You could see a little bit of what was to come. Kane had been up, obviously, a few years. He came up before even Lincecum did. And then Bumgarner, in 2009. And so you could kind of see the framework of what it could become. But I don't feel like the Giants right now think they're in a rebuild. Like, they may wind up by default being in a rebuild, but they don't, you don't sign the guys that they've signed, because you don't sign Snell and Chapman and Soler and Jung-Hoo Lee because you're rebuilding. So it may turn into that. But I don't know. I just don't. I don't think we're there yet, or they want to acknowledge that they're there yet. And sometimes when you acknowledge it, that's when the clock really starts. And I think there's a lot of Giants fans that are just freaking out at the thought that the rebuild actually hasn't started yet.
Yeah, I think
after the last 6 years.
Yeah, the guys that are in right now is purely out of necessity. This was not the intended lineup or the intended roster for the first 2 weeks of May for the Giants, and that's because of the injuries. And I really do truly think a couple of wins changes this conversation completely. If the Giants string together a couple of wins, this conversation changes. And the thing to look forward to is you do have your ace on the mound. The one guy that can right the ship is going to be on the bump tomorrow for the Giants at home versus the Dodgers, as they get a day off on Thursday, much needed, at home with the Rockies coming into town.
Yeah, it can flip. You win tomorrow, you sweep the Rockies, then there's action. But the Giants, they can't win 3 in a row. At least they haven't to this point. So, I mean,
we'll take one.
But that's it. But you win 2, and then you lose 2, and then you're right back. Like being at the ballpark felt great Saturday, Sunday, Monday. But the truth is, they're right back where they were Friday. They're right back where they were right now tonight, when Logan Webb was like, yeah, this is dog bleep.
Yeah, and just to try and relate, back to the fan base, I think one of the biggest concerns right now is just a lack. I think fans just want to see an identity, whether it's, committing to the young guys, or obviously they signed all of these free agents and you got to commit to them. But as we've all talked about, and Sandra's saying, it's like they don't have a choice. Like, right now is not what Melvin or Farhan has envisioned for this team to be. Like, they have to play the young guys. They are playing whoever's available out of the older guys, and they're kind of just combining the both. So
let's sneak in Rick and Hayward here, and then we're going to pause again. We'll come back. We'll get Austin's report from the clubhouse, and more thoughts from Sandra's will get you closer to the midnight replay. Hey, Rick, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, JD. My question, well, first off, I heard the last caller. It made me laugh when he said we're in a rebuild. Now, you don't spend $221 million for a rebuild.
No, you don't.
That right now.
No, you don't.
You don't trade for a Robbie Ray if you're in a rebuild.
No.
So let's put that to rest. They're not in a rebuild, folks. This is not.
They're not. They may be by August, but they're not right now.
Yeah. So my question is, as I was looking at the 40-man roster, we have Wade Meckler and David Villar down in the minor leagues. What happens if there were to be 3 more injuries and David Villar and Wade Meckler came up? Do they have to release a pitcher, DFA a pitcher on the 40-man roster, or is there some kind of rule that the MLB would impose that would say, yeah, we see that you have 11 or 12 guys on the 7, 10, or 15-day disabled list, and we're going to give you this extra guy because we know they're actually injured?
Yeah, well, Meckler, I'll give you Meckler and VR are on the 40-man roster.
Meckler's hurt right
now. Yeah, and
too.
Meckler's hurt. Exactly. Yeah, and Meckler's hurt right now as well. But yeah, they could be moved up, and you could option somebody down, or if there's an injury, obviously they could take their spot. But no, really the only other thing you can do is move a player to the 60-day injured. If you move a player to the 60-day, it takes them off of the 40-man roster. So you could add to the 40-man. So I don't know. Maybe Jung-Hoo Lee's probably gonna. We don't know. I don't want to say like I'm reporting that, but if Jung-Hoo Lee's got to have a major surgery, then he's going to be out at least 60 days. So he could free up a spot at that particular point in time, and then obviously Slater and Bailey, you hope, are coming back sooner than later, along with Soler. So that they have some options there as far as the 40-man at this point. The problem is, and Sandra mentioned it with Meckler, you're running out of players at AAA to even come up if you have 2 more injuries as far as position players.
That was my whole point.
Yeah.
That was my whole point, was we're running out of position players at Sacramento. What do we do?
Yeah, you got to go get somebody from AA, and you got to put them, and then you would have to put them on the 40-man and either move somebody to the 60 or cut somebody as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, it wasn't a good night tonight. This is kind of what I predicted. I saw 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati and 1 out of 3 from the Dodgers. It's basically on the next 3 games to give us a good homestand, a decent homestand, or a losing homestand. And my hope is by the end of June, we're back to 500.
Yeah, and look, right now 500 is the barometer for being the final wild card. So that's the one thing in all of this, and I think that's why they added the extra wild card, is they want to keep teams in it. Major League Baseball wants to keep teams in it, even teams that are mediocre, and the Giants have been that to this point in the season. And so, right now the Padres are the last team in, and they're a game under 500. So if you're within 6-7 games of 500, you're right there. At least you feel like you're right there. So thanks for the call, Rick. Sandra, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you can't lose the pennant in May, or you can't win the pennant in May, but you can definitely lose the pennant in May. You got to stay at least somewhat competitive during these games and not be a complete pushover to stay involved.
Quick thought.
Yeah, I was just going to say, no matter what happens tomorrow, I think the next 3 series after that, you have 3 against Colorado, you got 3 against Pittsburgh, you got 3 against the Mets. Pittsburgh and the Mets are on the road. It's like, all right, you either win or lose tomorrow. If you win 3 of the next 4, go 4-2 on the road, you come back 2 games under 500. You just got to stay around 500, like you were saying, 6 or 7 games. But if they can get within 2 or 3 games, that's kind of where it's at if they can come back home.
Yeah, and the Rockies have been playing better after an awful start. They've won 6 in a row. They were 8-28, and the Rockies they swept Texas over the weekend at Coors Field.
I did know that, actually.
And now they've gone to San Diego and picked up a couple of wins. So, which has helped the Giants obviously hang in the wild card race with everybody else, who's just a lot of mediocrity right now between the Padres, Nationals, Diamondbacks, Mets, Pirates, Giants, Reds, and even the Cardinals, who currently both the Reds and Cardinals are in a worse spot than the Giants, at least at the close of business here on this Tuesday. All right, final segment coming up. It is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Sound off on the sports leader. Sports phone KNBR keeps rolling right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
All right, final segment. John Dickinson, joined by Sandra G. We bring in Austin Scott as well. Do we have another call on the board here? Do we have another Marty, Cole? Oh, we have another Marty. This Marty in Albuquerque joins the conversation here. So let's get Marty in here on the phone lines before we bring in Austin. What's going on tonight, Marty?
Hi, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good. I don't think the Giants are very good. I think signs like Chapman and Soler, it wasn't very awesome. And I'm wondering if it's the owner, if that's the problem. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't spend money like L.A.
Well, look, I don't think it's the owner. The owner authorized the spending. I think if anything, and we'll let you guys weigh on this. I think if anything, and thank you, Marty. Appreciate it. Enjoy the night in Albuquerque. I wonder how Albuquerque's doing tonight.
Mexico.
I mean, we've had Mexico tonight. We're like spanning the globe tonight. We've had Mexico.
Nashville, Tennessee.
We've had Nashville tonight. We've had Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
We've had, it's like
Giants fans all over the world.
All over the board. Down in the Valley. It's been all over the board. I think if anything, the Giants, they felt that they had to spend, and so they spent. And I mean, and that's, you just want the return on investment when you spend at the level. They've been for years trying to get big time free agents to come. I don't think the problem really has been a lack of desire to spend. It's just been a lack of ability, fair or unfair, to close. Like, there's a million different reasons we've all debated on different shows as to why it is. We don't necessarily have to get into all that now, Sandra, but when you go after a number of players and they don't come, and the younger players are not where they need to be carrier, then you got to spend on somebody. Like, could you imagine if the Giants had gone through the offseason that they went through and not signed Snell and not signed Chapman? Like, the whole, and I know there's some people out there that are probably thinking, well, what have they brought? Well, I mean, Chapman's helped them win a couple of games, actually. He has helped them win a couple of games. Numbers aren't overall great. Snell, it's to this point, I think, been a disaster, honestly. But he could still come back and pitch like a Cy Young.
He's been a second half pitcher.
He's been a second half pitcher,
and he had zero spring training. And yep. I think that for the better part right now,
he could have 20 great starts.
Exactly.
And then it changes, and he basically did that last year. But I mean, you look not only his starts, but the other starts that they've had to make because he hasn't been available, and or they signed him late, which obviously is part of why you get him. And it hasn't worked to this point, but it still can.
Well, as soon as the Shohei free agency saga happened, it's like everybody, listening and being a part of the Giants organization, all the fans wanted Shohei, but to be honest, he just didn't want to come at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be here.
And you can't.
And then after Shohei signs with the Dodgers, they go out, they sign Blake Snell, they sign Matt Chapman. It's like after the big free agents were gone.
And I would have done all of those, by the way.
And
I liked all of those moves. So I'm not sitting here after the fact saying, hey, it's not working out.
I just think
I would have done
it. They did I think they did what they could have. The Shoheis of the world were signed, so they went and signed everybody else that was basically available.
Yeah, and I guess they had to do something. They couldn't just say, you know what, we didn't get Shohei, we're not going to spend. Like that, could you imagine? And I get it, there's a lot of angst right now surrounding where the Giants are, and they're trying to hang in there, like Bob Melvin said, but could you imagine the angst if they hadn't done it? It just, that would have been worse. Because you're also not going to just announce in March, oh, yeah, we're rebuilding now because we couldn't sign any of the 10 players we tried to sign. No, you got to try.
Everyone's talking about the Twitter right now and social medias with the Giants losing a couple to the Dodgers and the fire Bob Melvin that is apparently happening
really
online. I haven't heard any of that.
I haven't heard any of that either.
But,
that one.
Yeah, but can you imagine if the Giants didn't go out and make some signings and some names. I think the thing is, too, is that there's been a couple gotchas. The Giants, there's been a couple gotchas. Arson Judge is one of the gotchas where you Giants fans think that they're getting Aaron Judge. Doesn't happen. Gotcha with Carlos Correa, another gotcha. Shohei was in the building, so we have heard at some point that, I mean, wasn't another gotcha, so to speak. But, I mean, there was the rumbles and...
Well, and they like Yamamoto too. I mean, that was another one. I mean, that was, and then they both end up going to the Dodgers.
I feel this offseason was the most productive that we've had in a long time here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
It has been. And that's where I think when that happens and then it still doesn't work out, it's like, well, what are you going to do at that point? And that's where I think people are right now. I think people are approaching that, well, this path didn't work. And that path hasn't worked, and now you went down this path, and we don't know that it isn't going to work yet, but it doesn't look great right now. And then it becomes that's where I think everybody kind of starts to throw their hands up, and it's like, all right, well.
And then everybody on the narrative that it's just like, all right, time to play the Sacramento River Cats. Like, you can't go there, like, right now. You just can't.
Well, no, I mean, the Soler and Chapman, I mean, those guys have got to play when they come back because you got to get them right, and ultimately that gets you the best chance, I think, to be the most competitive. Well, I think where this thing is trending is it's trending toward young guys are going to get opportunities that they're already starting to receive, and then other players are going to come back from their various injuries. And it's not going to look like it did before. Like, some of the young players are going to stay. Some of the veteran players are going to be in different roles or not. Like, it's going to be, to me, that's when you look at ways out of the cave. It's the pitching, but it's also a better blend of the young players with some of the veteran players. Find the best 13 in terms of your position players, and maybe it is a couple of those guys that have just come up. Maybe it is Ramos and not Slater. Maybe it is Matos and not somebody else. Again, too early to tell on all of that, but I think that's the way out where you can have a different look with some of the things that you've had, to this point.
Yeah.
What
I was going to throw a couple stats.
Do it.
I know we were about 3 minutes away, probably, from going off the air.
Yeah, we're getting tight.
All right. Just I don't know if you guys have talked about this or seen this. I was, doing clubhouse stuff for the first hour or so, but this is a pretty crazy Keaton Winn stat. 20 of his 29 earned runs this season, he's given up in 3.1 of his 41 or his 42 and a third innings. So he's basically pitched 39 innings and only allowed 9 runs, but he's allowed 20 runs in 3 1/3 innings.
Yeah, he's had some bad innings.
It's tough.
That have made the whole,
And that's the thing Bob Melvin acknowledged in the postgame was he just, that second time around in the lineup, that 4th, 5th inning is just where he gets rocked, if he does get rocked. Otherwise, he's had good outings going into the 5th.
I wonder if he can help when everything's more solidified in the bullpen. I know I mentioned that before he got on the hot run of starts. Before he was on the run of starts, was it 3 starts? Before the last 2, and then you add tonight in as the third one that didn't go his way. I started projecting out toward Snell coming back and Cobb eventually, and maybe Robbie Ray at some point down the line there. But Keaton Winn could be somebody maybe that could help in the bullpen if he's pitching, an inning here, an inning there. And then you're not obviously going through the lineup multiple times.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Keaton Winn is getting an MRI tomorrow because he got pulled out of the game today. And I mean, we love Dave Greshner here in San Francisco, but every time I'm seeing him lately, it's not for good reason. He's out on the field and somebody's hurt, and that's what happened today with Keaton Winn. Had some elbow inflammation in spring training, if you guys remember. That got him a late start in spring training. So he didn't really have much left in that, was it the 4th or the 5th inning today, finishing off those pitches, and that's when stuff starts to elevate a little bit. That's where he was missing high, and that's when the Dodgers were sending that ball for a ride. Yeah, so that's right, and we mentioned that earlier. Good to reiterate that here as we wrap things up here on a Tuesday night. So thanks to you both again as well, Sandra. Wonderful to be with you. Wonderful to have you here, Austin, as well. Cole LaPelt back in our San Francisco studios.
Casey Copeland, I believe, as well tonight. The midnight replay is coming up next. We will talk to you tomorrow from the bunker. Game 3 of the 3-game set. Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants as they try to salvage one going into the weekend against the Rockies. And we will have it all for you right here. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.